Welcome to Season 8 of the Finding Peace podcast. This season is focused on practical, trauma-informed tools you can use in everyday life. When emotions run high, relationships feel heavy, or your nervous system needs support. Short episodes designed to help you find more peace, joy, and connection, one moment at a time. Please welcome the host of the Finding Peace podcast, best-selling author, psychotherapist, and speaker, Troy L. Love.
I attended an event this past week, and my wounds were definitely stirred up. I mean, I signed up to go to the thing, so I can't blame anybody but myself. Yet, while I was there, it definitely touched wounds that I'm very familiar with. In particular, my abandonment wound. And very quickly, my body reacted. An intensity rose within me, and I wanted to leave. I wanted to get in my truck and drive away. I wanted to get out of there as fast as I possibly could. But a friend of mine, Philip, had traveled all the way from Florida to Arizona to be with me. And so I stayed. And first, I want to say I'm so grateful for him, because I know if he wasn't there, I would have bolted. I just would. What happened during those 3 days was intense. It was messy. It was emotional. One moment, I'm sobbing, curled up in the fetal position. Later on, I'm outside yelling at God and beating a bunch of tires that are, for whatever reason, laid out in what I can only call the tire cemetery. I'm beating those things with a big old stick and swearing my little heart out. And then a few minutes later, collapsing into Philip's arms as he held me, and I sobbed some more, and he reminded me that I'm loved. Now, from the outside, that probably looked like chaos. In fact, another one of the participants sent me a message and said, I could tell that you were going through some stuff. Yes, I was. Lots of stuff. It was pretty intense. And I'm really glad I went. Despite the intensity, something important was happening. There was movement happening inside of me. Between the pain and the wounds and the story and the shame, between the grief and the heartache, there was also a reminder that I'm not alone. That movement is what we call pendulation. Pendulation is a natural rhythm between activation and settling. It is the ability to touch something painful and then return to something that feels supportive. Not forcing ourselves deeper into the pain, but also not running away from it, but allowing a kind of back and forth, touching the pain, pulling away to safety, touching the pain, coming back to safety. And in that moment, I wasn't just overwhelmed. Yes, there were waves of grief, and there were waves of anger, and there were waves of confusion, and there were waves of sadness, and there were waves of fear, and then back to anger again, all stemming from the familiar ache of that age-old abandonment wound that I've had since birth. But there was also Philip, present, his arms around me. There were other men there that I knew as well who put their arms around me and held me and reminded me that I'm not alone, that God loves me, that I'm loved by them. And so my system moved. into the pain, and then into connection, back to the pain, and then back into being held, sobbing, and then being soothed. That movement is what allowed things to shift. Now, I'm going to be honest. It didn't shift immediately. In fact, it's been 3 days since I've been to the event, and my body is just now starting to come to a grounded place. Even last night, there was so much pain going on. And this morning, I was able to show up for a group that I run and feel the presence of the men in that group and the light coming back into me and filling me up again because I felt so depleted. When we are only in pain, our system becomes overwhelmed. When we avoid the pain, nothing resolves. But when there's movement between distress and resource, pain and comfort, the nervous system begins to reorganize things. Our nervous system and our brain learns that we can feel pain and we can come back. We can lean into the discomfort and we can find solace. We don't have to stay in the stories of hopelessness that the shadows of shame say, but we can recognize the pain and the fear coming from those shadows of shame, and then find light and hope and healing on the other side. It's not the intensity of the emotion that creates healing, it's the rhythm. And this is important because healing is messy. It doesn't always look calm. Sometimes it looks like crying. Sometimes it looks like anger. Sometimes it looks like passive aggressiveness. Sometimes it looks like connection. Sometimes it looks like collapse, all happening all at the same time in the same space. And not because something is wrong, but because things are moving. So, if you're willing, let's try something together. And if you're driving, you may not want to be doing this while you're driving, so you may want to do this later. I want you to let your attention come into your body and just notice what's there. Now, see if you can find something inside that's connected to one of your attachment wounds. Loss, neglect, rejection, abandonment, betrayal, abuse. Just kind of notice where maybe any of those wounds reside in your body. And see if you can notice the place that feels a little uncomfortable. Now, we don't want to dive into the deep end, just a little uncomfortable, not overwhelming, but noticeable. And now, I want you to shift your attention to something that feels supportive. It might be the feeling of your body in the chair, where the chair is holding you up, or connecting with the ground beneath your feet and the ground is supporting you, or even a memory of someone who has been there for you and held you up in times of distress. And then, if it feels okay, return again to that wounded heart place, just briefly, just kind of barely touching it. And then come back to the sense of support. Just slowly back to the wound, to the pain. And then over to the support. Back and forth. Back and forth. You might even move your body, swaying to the right or left as you kind of imagine yourself leaning into the pain and then leaning into the support, leaning into the pain, leaning into the love, back and forth. Just like that. That was what was happening for me in that moment with Philip. Although I don't think I recognized it until I was sitting here ready to make this podcast. It wasn't a technique. It wasn't even something I was trying to do perfectly. It was just a natural rhythm between pain and connection. Giving myself space to cry without shaming myself and saying there's something wrong with me for hurting the way that I was hurting, and also giving myself space to lean into comfort without shaming myself about that either. So being able to go back and forth, allowing pain, allowing love, allowing pain, allowing comfort. And that rhythm of being able to go back and forth allowed the intensity to soften. And I'm really grateful that I had Philip there. Because without him, I would have missed out on the opportunity to experience the healing that was there for me. Because I would have ran. That fight or flight response is real, people. It's real. So here's the reminder. Healing is not about eliminating pain. It's about not being alone in our pain. And when our nervous system learns that the way that we heal attachment wounds is through connection and reaching out and being held by others and holding others in their pain, then our nervous system learns that it can move between pain and discomfort and connection and love. And when our body begins to learn that, things begin to shift. Things begin to change. So, the next time one of your wounds is being hit, see if you can allow yourself to lean into the discomfort and then lean into the support and love that is also present, into the feeling and into the support, back and forth. And trust that your body knows the way to find a way out. Remember, you are enough, you matter, and you are definitely worthy of love and belonging.
You've been listening to the Finding Peace podcast. Special thanks to Intrex for providing the theme music for this season and helping set the tone for reflection, grounding, and hope. If this episode supported you, please like, subscribe, and share the Finding Peace podcast. Your support helps these practical, trauma-informed tools reach more people who are seeking peace, clarity, and connection. To explore more resources, workshops, and upcoming events, visit findingpeaceconsulting.com. The Finding Peace podcast is hosted by best-selling author, psychotherapist, and speaker Troy L. Love. Until next time, remember, you are worthy of love and belonging.